People swore the plateau had a voice, like a throat clearing before a storm. Travelers heard it long before they saw the ruins. A low, steady hum that set your ribs vibrating. The stones were not singing. The wind was, and whoever shaped this place wanted it that way. They didn't pray for weather. They engineered it. They built walls that could catch the invisible, spin it, cool it, and pull water out of air you'd swear was dry. Then, one season, the wind died, and the tribe that trapped it was never seen again. Imagine a summer that never ends. Heat flattening the horizon, air sharp with salt and dust, water bleaching out of your skin as fast as you can drink it. In that world, the line between life and death is not courage, it's temperature and breath. So the tribe learned to touch the sky without touching a single cloud. They carved shallow canyons into stone courtyards, tilted fins of rock by the width of a thumbnail, and lined passages with reed valves that whispered when pressure shifted. From a distance, it looked like broken teeth around a mouth. Up close you felt the pull, air rushing down cool tunnels, heat bleeding into the earth, droplets glazing the inside of clay jars at dawn. But there's something else at the edge of the salt plain. Markings that read like instructions disguised as prayers. Spirals crosscut by notches. Hands shown open, then closed. Ropes tied to clouds. You run your fingers over the grooves and they burn cold. This place was a machine and a school and a warning. It taught people how to harvest the wind, how to make night air sweat into water, how to turn a howl into a heartbeat you can drink. And when a thing like that works, it doesn't look like magic. It looks inevitable. So here's the question the ruins still ask you with their hum. If the tribe could trap the wind, what else did they learn to hold? And what did they release the day they vanished? They called themselves, in the oldest carvings, the people of the breath. Not kings, not builders, listeners. The first law carved into the entry stones says, "Measure the wind before you measure the land." That tells you the order of things here. They mapped currents like other tribes mapped rivers. They watched which grasses bent at dusk, which beetles surfaced before a storm, which dunes slumped after a red moon. And somewhere between watching and wanting, they built a city that inhaled. Picture the plan from above. Broad squares facing the prevailing winds, narrow alleys set at an angle that seems random until you feel the draft on your neck. At the heart, a spiral courtyard with walls that step down into the earth, each ring cooler than the last. At night, descending air is pulled across wet stone and clay. By morning, a frost skin gleams on the basin like a secret. Along the edges, tall lattices of thorn and palm fiber catch fog so faint you'd miss it even if it kissed your face. Every surface has a job. Every shadow is engineered. Tools were simple, but the thinking wasn't. They used what later scholars would call the Venturi effect without ever saying the words. Pinch a channel, speed the wind, pull heat away. Bernoulli lives here in reed flutes that change pitch when pressure shifts. Wind instruments you don't play with your hands, but with the weather itself. Children learned to read the courtyard by sound the way others read by firelight. 2 notes meant open the western gates. A high whine meant block the southern alley. The city taught them to move like air moves. And yet the scars in the stone say this place wasn't just a craft. It was a defense. Sand-polished grooves show where gates slammed into place. Blackened floors mark the rooms where cook fires breathed through narrow chimneys that spat dust and ash into a sacrificial pit. This was survival turned into architecture, a manual written in wind. But manuals have endings. And the last page somewhere. The first real twist comes when you line up the towers with the dunes. They aren't random teeth in the sand. They're a tuned instrument. The tallest spires sit in a crescent that faces the seasonal wind like a row of open mouths. Behind them, lower walls coil into courtyards that tighten like the throat of a flute. When the wind rises, the spires feed the courtyards pull the alleys, and the alleys spill the air into underground vaults where heat dies and water is born. The entire city is a single breath, in on the storm, out into the cistern. But there's a problem written in the stones like a bruise. One ring of towers is shattered, not by time but by force. Fragments lie outward, as if the city exhaled too hard and broke its own mouth. Near the break, we find a narrow chamber lined with bone and shell. Not decoration, acoustic teeth. Stand there, and the wind becomes a tone you feel in your molars. Too much tone and rock can fracture. The people of the breath knew sound could kill stone and maybe men. Their instrument could cool a city. Turned the wrong way, it could become a weapon. Why build a weapon if you worship wind? Maybe you don't. Maybe you survive. A drought stretches across seasons. Raiders smell water. You have 2 choices. Let them in or make the wind itself say no. Records on the inner lintel show a closed hand, a spiral cut in half, and a mark meaning silence. Silence here is not peace. Silence is the day the wind stops, the day the system stalls. Because there's one more thing the spiral does. It can collapse its own draft if the gates are sealed in the wrong order. One mistake, one panicked move, and your city chokes on stillness. That last summer, the carvings suggest, the tribe attempted something desperate. They flooded the acoustic chamber and opened every northern gate. If you've ever heard a storm organ scream through broken reed, you know the sound. If stone remembers anything, it remembers that. Return in the morning and listen, really listen, and the second layer reveals itself. The city isn't only a cooler and a shield. It is a clock, and the hands are made of air. Every tower's mouth is cut at a slightly different angle. When the sun climbs, each mouth lights for a heartbeat, casting a blade of brightness onto a mark below. Those marks form a calendar of winds. The day the breeze swings north, the night the sea sends fog, the week the desert eats the horizon. The tribe didn't predict weather with magic. They archived it in stone and sound. Look at the fibers woven into the fog nets. They aren't random ropes. They're layered with a mineral dust that tastes of salt and shell. Under a lens, you'd see barbs like a cactus spine, microscopic hooks that catch droplets and wick them downward. That water slides into alveoli, honeycombed bricks set deep in shade, where even a breath feels cold. Nearby, dull black jars hide salt harvested from the night's sweat. Salt to cure meat, to trade, to keep the body's messages firing when the heat tries to shut them off. This is survival as physics, chemistry, and design, all learned with bare hands. But the deeper twist is more human than technical. On the lowest stair of the spiral courtyard, there's a smooth groove the width of a foot. Generations wore that line into the stone by pausing there to test the air. Eyes closed, palm over the drain, counting heartbeats to a rhythm the city taught them. They weren't just building machines. They were training bodies to read the sky. And that training has an endgame. The path beyond the last courtyard isn't a wall. It's a trail of shallow rock bowls, each positioned to hold dew where there is no shade, leading out across the salt like breadcrumbs. Follow them far enough and you reach a bluff cut with small, identical alcoves, each no deeper than a hand, each facing the same narrow slice of horizon. Stand there at dusk and a line of darker air pours past your face. It's not wind. At the far edge of the bluff, a last inscription waits where the light is worst. Not carved deep, almost a whisper. An open hand, a spiral unbroken, a line of dots that step away into nothing. The translation, if you listen with your skin, is simple: do not keep what moves. The people of the breath didn't vanish. They graduated. They designed a city to be unlivable without the wind so that when the corridors of air shifted, they'd be forced to follow. Their greatest invention wasn't the machine. It was the discipline to walk away from it. Imagine the moment. The drought breaks, but not here. The corridor tilts, the clock of towers rings the wrong notes, and milk-white fog begins pooling over a coastline 2 journeys north. Any other city would have died clutching its walls. The tribe opened their hands. They dismantled the smallest mouths, took the reeds and fibers and salts, and followed the ghost current the alcoves point to. They left behind a lesson etched into vibration and shade. Control is borrowed. Breath is borrowed. Survival is the art of releasing at the right time. Which brings us back to the broken ring and the silence that followed it. Was the shattering a battle? Maybe. Or maybe it was ritual. One last loud exhale to mark the end of a cycle, to make sure no one tried to live here the wrong way. You can trap the wind for a while, call it, shape it, drink from it, but you cannot own it. The day you try, the machine becomes a coffin. So listen to the plateau. Hear the hum return on rare nights when storms remember the old paths. Feel how the air thickens at dusk in the low places. Ask yourself, not as a tourist, but as an apprentice, what would you build if the grid failed and the horizon ran dry? What could you teach your hands to read? And if you had to choose between staying safe behind stone or walking with the sky, which way would you turn? If the story struck a nerve, follow the trail with us. There are more tribes that caught the impossible and let